Imagine standing in front of a door. It's big, heavy, and behind it is an opportunity that can change your life. You've heard about what's on the other side, the chance to achieve your dreams, get what you've always wanted, or even completely change your path. However, as you reach out to turn the doorknob, something inside you freezes. Your mind starts creating scenarios of everything that could go wrong. What if I fail? What if they judge me? What if I'm not capable? These doubts echo so loudly that you take a step back. The door is still there, unmoving, but now it feels even heavier. How many times have you felt this way? How many doors have you closed because you're afraid of failure? The fear of failure is like a shadow. It grows as we face it with insecurity. It whispers lies about who we are and what we are capable of doing. But what we often forget is that fear has no real substance. It is fueled by our assumptions and negative thoughts. Today, we will learn how to overcome this invisible barrier and finally open the door to our true potential. The fear of failure is something we have all experienced at some point in our lives. It appears in important situations, when we are about to make a difficult decision, change careers, start a new relationship, or take that step towards something we really want. It is a universal feeling, present in all cultures, ages, and moments in history. After all, who has never hesitated to move forward for fear of the unknown or the consequences of a possible mistake? As common as it is, fear of failure is one of the biggest obstacles to personal and professional growth. It not only paralyzes us, but also creates a series of internal doubts. Am I good enough? What if I try and end up worse than I am now? What will others think of me? These questions trap us in a spiral of insecurity, where fear convinces us that it is better not to try than to risk failure. But what is failure, after all? For many, it is seen as an end, as proof that we are not capable. However, Stoicism, an ancient and timeless philosophy, teaches us something different. Failure is an essential part of the journey. It does not define who we are, but shapes us, teaches us, and prepares us to be stronger. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you respond to what happens to you that matters." Failure, therefore, is just another opportunity for growth. In this video, we'll explore the fear of failure from a Stoic perspective. We'll understand why it arises, what impacts it has on our lives, and most importantly, how we can overcome it. I'll share practical strategies and thoughtful insights so you can turn this fear into fuel for action. By the end, you'll be ready to open that door and take the next step toward your goals. Why does fear of failure happen? Fear of failure is something deeply rooted in us as human beings, and understanding its origins is the first step to overcoming it. This fear can arise from many different sources and manifests itself in different ways in each person. It is, at its core, a natural reaction to the unknown, the possibility of emotional pain, and the risk of losing something valuable. But why does it happen? First, fear of failure may have its roots in past experiences. When we experience a failure in the past, whether it's a failed exam, a rejected project, or even an embarrassing moment in public, our brain registers it as a warning. Don't do that again. This protective mechanism prevents us from repeating what was painful, but at the same time, it limits us. Instead of seeing failure as part of the learning process, we interpret it as something to be avoided at all costs. Another common source of fear of failure is fear of judgment. We live in a society that values success and often ignores the trial and error that precedes it. The pressure to appear successful can lead us to avoid risks for fear of how we will be perceived if we fail. This fear is reinforced by social media, where everyone seems to live perfect, error-free lives, making failure almost unacceptable in the eyes of others. In addition, fear of failure can be related to unrealistic expectations we place on ourselves. We are often our own worst critics. We set standards so high that any result that falls short of them feels like a complete failure. This perfectionism paralyzes us, as we believe that if we can't do something perfectly, it's better not to even try. Finally, there is also the fear of the unknown. When we are not clear about what could happen, our mind tends to imagine the worst. We create catastrophic scenarios, often exaggerated and unrealistic, that convince us that the risk is too great. This natural tendency to overestimate risks and underestimate our ability to deal with them is what further fuels the fear of failure. However, Stoicism offers us a different approach. For Stoics, failure is not something to be feared, but a tool for self-knowledge and growth. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest exponents of Stoicism, wrote, "If it's in your control, why worry? If it's not in your control, why worry?" This perspective helps us see that the fear of failure is, most of the time, a fear of the unreal, a construction of the mind that prevents us from acting. Understanding these roots, past experiences, fear of judgment, perfectionism, and fear of the unknown, is essential to begin challenging and overcoming the fear of failure. Recognizing that it is normal and, more importantly, that it can be overcome, is the first step toward taking the next step toward our dreams. Consequences of being paralyzed by fear. First, when we give in to fear of failure, we miss out on valuable opportunities. Just think of how many doors have been closed because you chose not to knock on them, afraid no one would open them. Projects never started, ideas never shared, important conversations postponed. Each of these decisions may seem small at the time, but over time, they add up to deep regret. How many times have you looked back and thought, what if I had tried? Furthermore, fear of failure drains our emotional and mental energy. It keeps us in a constant state of tension and worry, as if we are always walking through a minefield, waiting for the next wrong move. This mindset can lead us to procrastination, because we postpone important decisions to avoid the discomfort of facing possible mistakes. And paradoxically, the longer we postpone, the more our fear grows, creating a vicious cycle that is difficult to break. Fear also erodes our self-confidence and self-esteem. Every time we fail to try something for fear of failure, we send a message to ourselves that we are not capable, that we are not strong enough to deal with the consequences. Over time, it undermines our belief in our own potential, making us increasingly insecure and less likely to face challenges. And of course, there's the issue of how it impacts our relationships. Fear of failure doesn't just affect our personal or professional lives. It also affects how we connect with others. By avoiding risks, we can miss out on opportunities to build meaningful relationships, whether that's turning down an opportunity to collaborate on a project, avoiding sharing our feelings for fear of rejection, or even not supporting others who are facing their own challenges. However, the biggest consequence of all is regret. Studies show that, at the end of life, people regret more the things they didn't do than the things they did and didn't work out. Fear of failure robs us of this chance to experience, to live fully, to learn and grow. By letting fear paralyze us, we are actually failing at the most important thing: living a life of purpose. But here's the good news. These consequences don't have to be your fate. Stoicism teaches us that we have the power to choose our actions, and that by facing our fears, we discover true freedom. As Epictetus said, it is not events that disturb us, but the opinions we have about them. By changing the way we view failure, we can rewrite our story and turn every obstacle into an opportunity. Recognize that fear is just a feeling, not a final sentence. Facing it may be uncomfortable at first, but the reward is immeasurable. A more authentic, fulfilled life full of achievements, even if they are accompanied by mistakes and setbacks. Failure is only permanent if you give up. Strategies to overcome the fear of failure. Overcoming the fear of failure is not an easy task, but it is not impossible either. With the right strategies, it is possible to transform this fear into learning, courage, and action. Here are 5 practical steps, based on Stoic philosophy and psychological principles, that can help you face this challenge and take the next step towards your goals. Step 1. Reframe your view of failure. How we view failure determines how we deal with it. Instead of seeing it as a final obstacle, start viewing it as an opportunity to learn. Stoicism teaches that adversity is a teacher, not an enemy. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This means that failure, as painful as it may seem, is an essential part of progress. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? Each unsuccessful attempt offers valuable lessons on how to do better next time. Reframing failure as a step in the process of growth eases the emotional burden it carries. Step 2. Start with small steps. Fear of failure can feel overwhelming when the goal seems too big or too far away. Breaking your goal down into small steps can make the process more manageable. Imagine you want to launch a personal project, but the fear of failure paralyzes you. Instead of trying to do everything at once, start with one small step, such as writing a draft, talking to someone in the field, or researching the topic. Each small success builds confidence and reduces the impact of fear. As the saying goes, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. The more you progress, the more you notice your fear diminishing. Step 3. Focus on what is within your control. One of the most powerful lessons of Stoicism is the distinction between what is in our control and what is not. Often, fear of failure is linked to factors we cannot control. The opinions of others, the behavior of others, or even the end results of our actions. However, what we can control, our effort, preparation, and attitude, is what really matters. Ask yourself, am I doing my best with what I can control? If the answer is yes, let the rest sort itself out. Step 4. Face the fear gradually. Fear of failure doesn't go away overnight. It needs to be faced gradually. Think of fear as a muscle that can be strengthened with constant practice. Start by facing smaller situations that make you uncomfortable but aren't too threatening. For example, if you're afraid of public speaking, practice with close friends first, then in small groups, before facing a larger audience. Each small victory builds your confidence and proves that you're capable of overcoming bigger challenges. Facing fear gradually also helps desensitize your mind, making what once seemed scary seem more natural and manageable. Step 5. Adopt a mindset of progress, not perfection. Many people fear failure because they believe they have to get everything right the first time. This perfectionism is a trap that keeps us from taking action. Replace the all-or-nothing mentality with an approach of continuous progress. Recognize that each step you take, even if imperfect, is a step toward your goal. Thomas Edison, when he invented the light bulb, failed thousands of times before he succeeded. He said, "I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Remember that progress is built on trying, not on perfection. Celebrate the small steps forward and see them as part of the path to success. Implementing these strategies takes effort and practice, but each one helps reduce the impact of fear of failure and increase your confidence to take action. Stoicism teaches us that by changing the way we view challenges, we can transform them into powerful tools for growth. As Epictetus said, "Difficulty shows what a man is." Fear of failure, when faced, reveals our strength and resilience. Start today with one small step and see how each action reduces the weight of fear and brings you closer to your dreams. Think about something you've been putting off because you're afraid of failure. Now ask yourself, what's the worst-case scenario? And if it does happen, what can I do to recover? The answer will often be less scary than you think. Remember, failure is a teacher, not an enemy. It teaches us resilience, patience, and wisdom. The important thing is not to avoid falling, but to learn to get up. Take the next step, even if you are afraid, because that is how courage is built. Now it's up to you. Take a sheet of paper and write down an action you've been putting off for fear of failure. Decide to start today, even if it's just a small step. The important thing is to take action, even if you're afraid, because it's in movement that we find the strength to grow. And if you liked this content and want to continue learning how to overcome your fears and reach your full potential, subscribe now to the Potential Total channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Together, let's transform the way we face life's challenges.